Hey guys, what's up? It's Naomi Ayala. And first off, I wanted to say I have always been such a huge fan of scary stories to tell in the dark. I have even made it a tradition to read it to my younger siblings every single year on Halloween. And in honor of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark coming out today, August 9th, I decided to create my very own Scary Story to Tell in the Dark. That was a mouthful. Alright, so grab your popcorn and don't forget your icy. Also, don't spill it on a friend. Not saying that from personal experience. So without further ado, I now present to you the box. Brina worked at Bob's supermarket. That night she was told she would be closing alone. Normally, she would decline, but her family was out of town that weekend and she wasn't looking forward to going home. She looked at her watch, and with every minute that went by, there would be fewer and fewer customers. As she was driving home that night, watching the long, empty roads, she began to get a little scared. She dreaded getting home. She finally reached a little house at the end of the road in which all her childhood memories lied. As she parked the car, she noticed that the night was quiet. A bit too quiet, she thought, but proceeded towards her front door. When she got to her front door, she noticed an unusual-looking box, sitting there, as if waiting for her. "What a strange thing," she said. She paused for a moment and looked around. Chills ran down her spine as the wind wrapped around her. Who would leave a package at such a late hour, she thought. She was hesitant at first, but leaned down and picked up the box. It was a small cardboard box, and it was surprisingly heavy. As she held the box with both hands, she noticed a note attached on the side, and it read, "Brina, open and see that what you read isn't always make-believe." Signed A.S. She had never seen those initials before. Who could it be from? She took the box inside with her and placed it onto the kitchen counter. She popped a frozen burrito into the microwave and headed upstairs to her room. The stairs creaked as she walked up, her mind racing, thinking, who could it be from? When she got to the top, she turned towards the foot of the stairs. An abyss of complete darkness. Brina had a tendency of spooking herself with irrational thoughts, so she rushed to her room. Beep, beep, beep. "Oh, it seems dinner is ready," she said with a smile. She jumped into her pajamas and headed downstairs. When she walked into the kitchen and grabbed her burrito, the light suddenly flickered. She thought nothing of it, as old houses are bound to have problems. She then headed for the couch excitedly and turned the TV on. As she began to munch on the bean and cheese burrito, the little box in the corner caught her eye. "I'll open it in a bit," she thought. As she finished up, she began to hear a faint scratching sound emitting from the box. "That's odd," she thought. Brina got up and slowly walked towards the box, grabbing it and putting it against her ear. She heard nothing. Her curiosity got the best of her, so she violently tore the package apart and, "Ha-ha! A jack-in-the-box!" she exclaimed. "Very funny. I wonder who pulled this prank." Brina began examining the box. It was an old jack-in-the-box with creepy writing all over, reading, "Stay away. Do not open. Cursed. You can't hide." "Ha ha, very funny. I'm so scared," she proclaimed sarcastically. "It was probably Sophia. She loves pranking me." She wrapped her hand around the handle, but when she tried to turn it, it wouldn't budge. "What the heck? It doesn't even work," she complained. Brina shoved the box back onto the counter, turned all the lights off, and walked back upstairs to her bedroom. After binge-watching all of Naomi Ayala's videos on YouTube, she decided to catch up on some reading. Gradually, her eyes became heavy, but before she could fall into a deep sleep, once again, she began to hear faint scratching sounds coming from downstairs. She looked at her watch. It was 3 a.m. There's no way her family would be home so soon. She was about to ignore the strange sounds when suddenly she began to hear an eerie tune coming from downstairs. She reluctantly got out of bed and headed towards the noise. slowly, as if not wanting someone to know she was home. From the top of the stairs, she looked down into the darkness. The music continued. Brina then mustered up the courage to head down, though a bit nervous. Halfway down, she heard a tin-like crash. Immediately, she came to a halt. She gulped. A million thoughts ran through her head. Raccoons? Rats? An intruder? All of these thoughts filled her head as she continued down the stairs. Completely frightened, as she turned the corner to look around, her eyes quickly turned towards the counter where the box laid, but saw nothing. It was gone now. She searched around the kitchen floors, but to her surprise, the box was nowhere to be found. She was shocked when she walked into the living room and saw the box opened and lying next to the green couch she had snacked on earlier. When Brina grabbed the box to look inside, she saw nothing. She looked around once again. "Is anybody there?" she asked nervously. Nothing. Not a sound other than the howling wind outside. "I'm just being paranoid," she thought to herself. She walked back upstairs, but before she could make it to the top, she began to hear little whispers. At first, she couldn't understand what they were saying, but one voice began to get louder than the rest.
"I can see you,"
the voice said. "Who's there?" responded Brina. But the voice didn't answer.
"Come and play with us?"
The voice said a little louder. She heard little footsteps running across the floor below her.
"Run!"
The voice said, now screaming. Suddenly, she saw something at the bottom of the stairs. As her eyes adjusted more and more into the darkness, the little thing became more and more clear. It looked like a little clown. It had a red nose, bright orange hair, and long, sharp teeth. An evil laugh came out of the little clown.
"Brina, I'm coming to get you."
It repeated once again. "Who are you?" Brina asked. The little thing began to crawl up the stairs using its hands, and that's when she noticed it had no legs or feet.
"I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you."
Over and over again it would chant. She stood there, frozen. She couldn't believe her eyes. With every step the clown took, it began to grow bigger and bigger. Brina ran into her room and quickly locked the door. She heard loud stomping heading towards her room.
"Brina, let me in.
The voice said. Brina didn't say a word.
Let me in."
The voice said again. Her heart was beating profusely and she felt like she couldn't breathe. Suddenly, she heard the stomping going back downstairs. She gathered up courage and slowly opened the door. She poked her head into the hallway and looked around. It was completely silent. Scared, she went back into her room and locked the door. With her back to the door, she faced her room. Something didn't feel right. She felt as if something was in there with her. One of the little screws of her ceiling vent suddenly began to unscrew itself. Boom! The vent screen fell onto her bed. The little creature fell onto the floor and began charging towards her with a menacing smile. "No!" she screamed. Suddenly, she woke up and she was sitting by the cash register. "Oh my God, I fell asleep at work?" She looked at her watch and it was midnight. She composed herself and prepared to close the supermarket. When she locked the doors and headed to her car, she couldn't help but look around. Was it really just a dream? She thought to herself. While driving home through the long, dark roads, she couldn't help but think about the nightmare. When she finally reached her little house at the end of the road, She locked her car and walked cautiously to her front door. When Brina got there, she noticed a small package sitting there, as if waiting for her. She stared at it in disbelief and decided to go back to her car. Now, safe in her car, she kept staring at the package that sat by the front door. Was my dream really just a dream? She said aloud. She began to hear eerie music coming from the back seat. Suddenly, Brina started hyperventilating, and when she slowly turned